applause for DJ the poet. I'm sure most of us can't really stand in front of 5 people, talk less of all of us seated here. And it takes not just standing in front of people to recite a poem, it takes a great deal of good thinking to be able to write down the poem, because everything that she said is raise, maze, gaze, stuff like that. You know, it takes a lot to do that. So thumbs up to you, Dija. And like she said, and I'd like to reiterate, let us all support her. She has an upcoming launching, which is coming up in February next year. So let's all go and support Dija. A round of applause again for Dija. So, for those of us who do not know, there's a saying in Aku that messenger never die in a war. If I attempt to literally translate it directly, it means, okay, a messenger does not die at war. What am I saying? We saw a beautiful piece played out in the first poem that Dija recited, which is the first one. I don't really remember what it was, but the first poem she did, I'm sure we loved the picture quality, we loved all the graphics to it and all the sound on it. So it was just Dija's voice actually, you know, and her face obviously, and her poem obviously. But all that work is also going to be credited to Africa Renaissance TV. So for some of us who want to do adverts at our offices, you know, they can actually do a very good coverage on some of your work at the office space, or even your personal work. So ARTV, Africa Renaissance TV, is the place to go for all your adverts, your documentaries, and so on and so forth. So thumbs up to Africa Renaissance TV. Let's give it up for Africa Renaissance TV. They're not just into talk shows and all of that that are educative. They're also into other things, you know, which means they need to sustain the TV network. It's not easy to sustain a TV network, much more one that is online. It may seem cost effective, but it really requires a lot of money. So let's support the Africa Renaissance TV in any way we can. So without much ado, I'd like to call on the panelists. I don't know if they're ready yet. Are the panelists ready? Okay, I see some heads nodding. So they'll be taking us on the panel discussion on media for social change, transforming societal mindset. This should be interesting. Please make sure you ask questions. And this will be hosted by none other than the very Mohammed B. Baji. A round of applause, please. So our panelists, kindly make your way up forward. They've arranged the seats beautifully so you'd see all the nice faces. So if you have a phobia for the camera, sorry, but you'll have to sit right in front. So a round of applause as they make their way to a seat right in front there. Please keep clapping. Some of them are shy before they fall down. Yes, just keep clapping until everybody is seated. Thank you very much. You know, I know we just ate and the food was very delicious. Thank you, Bakadaji, for the meal. Keep clapping. That's why some of us feel exams. Keep clapping. Obey instruction. I said keep clapping. Keep clapping. The instruction is keep clapping. Keep clapping. Keep clapping. Keep clapping means I don't want to sound like late everybody. All right, thank you very much. Over to you, Mohammed.
The main artist for the night, who is Jali Suso, he's also in the background. And on his behalf, I am extending a big patience. Right after the panel discussion, he will take the stage to entertain all of us. Thank you. So we are going to start with the panel discussion here. Like Isa rightly mentioned, the panel discussion revolves around the thematic for media for social change, transforming societal mindset. This is an important one. And in our midst here, the panel members or the panelists are six, and starting from my far right is Madam Aissatou Keita. She is the Vice President of the Gambia Press Union, our bigger body, bigger authority in terms of the media. We are glad to have you here. Next to her, I have Prof. Siddharth Yafa from the University of the Gambia, and also a huge climate advocate in the Gambia and the sub-region. And then I have next to me Mr. Suleiman Jame, Your Highness, one of the brightest advocates and specialists in terms of transport and urban planning, or if I can add, transport rights and urban planning. And then right after him, I have do we really know this year, or say next year, the next AFCON, we are, as a country, the Gambia, we are playing the AFCONs. If this could be attributed to an institution right in our midst, it's Gambia Football Federation, and who are also a very big partner in not just this dinner, but then the Renaissance East Africa Pitch Competition. So we are glad to have you here. And then another important partner in terms of health is the health services, and then I have Dr. Bite as a big representation here. And finally, and one of the, if we are to have a founding father as a network or a TV, like we would like to call it, Mr. Aliou Fall is someone we look up to, someone who has been a mentor and an advisor in terms of guidance to up to this stage, and we are proud to have you here. Yes, so like I said, I will cut the discussion, the introduction, very short from there. And for the interest of time, the questions will be limited to a maximum of 2. Most likely we're going to go with 1, in as much as the discussions are important. The conversation, we will have each and every one of them at their own convenience to have a broader discussion on this topic. Of course, with their permissions, even if this is going to be at their respective offices or any other venue convenient for them. Yes, so media for development, or if we like to make it short, media for social change. African Renaissance TV is amongst the very many platforms or media outlets in the Gambia. And like the presentations have been on, we focus solely on developmental projects. There is a common saying amongst our midst that there are problems in the Gambia, there are problems in Africa, problems in our societies. But these problems have been communicated, have been talked about, have been attempted to proffer solutions on by several individuals, if not all of us. And that has made the problems known to each and every one of us. So the next step that we believe as young people that is there for these problems is to attempt, and then not just attempt, but then to find solutions to them. And as a TV, we want to always say that is our sole focus, in as much as identifying the problems are important. But what do we do in terms of providing solutions? And that is why we want to have a convergence of this magnitude today. So I would start, the usual trend is to start from the right. So if I am permitted, would I, but this will have to come from the audience, yes, so everyone out who is not on the stage here. Where do I start? Do I start from my left or my right? Well, some are saying ladies first. Okay, ladies first. By the way, all the ladies are very looking beautiful here, but then they are all second to the men here. So I'm sure no one will shoot me from here. Yes. So, Madam Vice President, I will bring up this first question. Journalism is an important aspect in our lives in terms of information sharing and then consumption as a country. I want to customize this to the Gambia. But how important is the role of media in terms of spreading quality information, especially in this age for information overload, if you like to call it?
Well, thank you very much for having me here. It's quite a pleasure to be here. Like you said, my name is Aissatou Keita. I am the Vice President of the Gambia Press Union, also a journalist, a practicing journalist. As we all know, the media, we all owe to the fact that we understand the importance of media in our everyday lives. Sitting here alone, even using our phones, taking pictures and putting it on our status, we're actually saying something, and it actually means something out there. That actually goes to show how much important the media actually plays. So journalism is an important aspect of development, and it's part of our everyday lives. It would be difficult. Sometimes I sit to wonder what life would have actually been without journalists or journalism per se, and nobody actually practices journalism. So it's important. There exists this unquenchable thirst for information on a daily basis, and people consume information, and it's journalists that actually transmit or put this information actually out there for the consumption of the populace. But now, owing to the advent of the new media, it actually makes it more difficult for us. There exists this proliferation of media houses that exist since the advent of the new dispensation, and everybody actually wants to transmit information. Everybody wants to be the first person to actually transmit information out there. Even you sitting at the corners of your room, you actually want to be the first person to actually transmit information. So then now you tend to look at that actually talks about the aspect of citizen journalism. You have the ones that are practicing journalism and the other ones doing other work after there. So now how would you balance these two altogether? It creates a problem. So you look at the work that we do on a daily basis. It's very, very important. But then how do we filter the information that we give to people out there? Then now you come to look at it. The information that we have, the information that we give at a particular point in time, are we giving it to the right people? Are we giving it at a particular point in time? Like, are we giving it to the right people to consume at this material time? Okay. So usually this becomes a huge problem that we actually face, and then at some point you try not to understand who is a journalist and who is not a journalist. We hold a very important role in society to give people information at the desired time, and then that is to talk about the right information at the right time and also to the right people. Somebody was actually echoing the aspect of giving the correct information. That is what the work of journalists actually is. But now, with problem that we have, and even in the aspect of the Gambia Press Union to say, we cannot actually regulate who is a journalist and who is not a journalist, because that is not under the mandate of the Gambia Press Union. But just so to cap it up is that the media or journalists actually play a very, very important role in shaping society, in serving as catalysts of change. We actually shape discussion. We are agenda setters. We shape the discussion for people to look at, and then, like, we could take, for instance, a case in point I could talk about is the aspect of the president's bill that was actually tabled at the National Assembly. So when it was out there, it was in the media. Then that was where the discussion actually started, saving around, people actually started talking about it. And that could be one aspect that I could tell you about the importance of journalism in society. Just to put it that for now. Thank you.
Well, if I didn't know you, even being introduced as a practicing journalist, I wouldn't expect anything short in terms of standard, and then that was a quality one. And like you said, I think it's important to have journalism as a domain, and then journalists play an important role in our lives, because we wouldn't be able to fulfill our human activities without information. And in today's age and time, we benefit from information through journalists. If you want to get accurate information, like you said, there could be other factors that are beyond the control of special institutions like the GPU or the Gambia Press Union. But then, like I said, I think it's an important part that we have journalists amongst our midst. It is important to have conversations like this so that we understand that information is that key in our daily lives, and that is one of of the reasons why we came up with this topic to say media for a social change or societal change, if one can put it. If we are to have any important changes in terms of our lives, from health, from education, in terms of sports, in transport, on climate change, information has to be there. And the professionals in terms of who can put it there, no other persons or no other domain but journalists and then journalism, and that is quite important. I will move on. You have been a huge advocate for climate change in terms of bringing up solutions and then engaging young people, using academics as a backing point to bring progress and then good solutions to that. But then in the Gambia, we've seen, we want to relate this in terms of the media. What role has been missing, and what do we think the media could do in terms of bettering, providing solutions to our environment in terms of climate change?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Professor Sidat Jaffa. I'm the Dean, School of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, University of the Gambia. And before I respond to your question, since you're talking about climate change, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has made it very clear it's mandatory for anything discussions relating to climate change, the panelists must be a minimum 30% female, gender equity. So you keep note of that next time you do it, because we're only 1 out of 6. That is unfair. And in order to get to your question, to respond to your question, yes, media is very, very essential. I'll give you one example from the University of the Gambia. Excuse me. In 2020, University of the Gambia conducted a one-year feasibility study on renewable energy potentials in the Gambia. What are the renewable energy potentials? What are the those energies that we use to get electricity for our lives and livelihoods? Yes, we did an excellent publication, but we fell short of involving the media to get that information out to the general public. So when we developed the a project, a research project, 4-year research project that emanated from that 1-year feasibility study. We call it REPGAM project. The project came up with the idea to hire a consultant, a media consultant, the GRTS, so that our work throughout the country, because it's a nationwide project, our work can be showcased throughout the country. Currently, since we started in June 2021, currently almost every household you go to, especially in the rural communities, you just say REPGAM. Everybody knows what REPGAM is. How did we do it? The media consultant came up with an agenda. That is, every quarter they will go around the whole country, all the community radios. The project funds them. All the community radios in the country, they will go and have a 1-year session about REPGAM and about climate change in general. And also their jingle, every day you can listen to GRTS starting on Monday, this coming Monday. The Mandinka version, the English version has been going on for 1 year. Every Monday you listen to GRTS, you hear this jingle about REPGAM, Renewable Energy Potentials in the Gambia project, REPGAM project. So that is the essence of bringing in the media to whatever you do, because they are a catalyst for change. We can do whatever we want to do at the University of the Gambia. Hardly would Gambians know about it, but if we bring the media to those projects, to our research, they are the ones who want to showcase what we do on a daily basis, what we do on a yearly basis as far as research and climate change is concerned. Yes, climate change is very important. It's everybody's business, because climate change cuts across all sectors of the Gambia economy. So it is everybody's business here and throughout the country to know a little bit about climate change, so that all of us can know how to adapt to the impacts of climate change. How can we do that? We have to revamp there's media on about climate change. ARTV. I would propose, if you don't have it now, you have a special session or program on climate change on every week. So you have somebody, you invite experts within climate change in the Gambia, from the University of the Gambia, from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, etc., etc. Let them come over and talk about climate change issues that impact our lives and livelihoods. Thank you.
He's not just an advocate on climate change, he's a mentor to thousands of youth in the Gambia. Most of youths that are rising in terms of awareness on climate-related issues have him to look up to as a mentor. And then none of them would be wrong to do that. That is an important thing to do. Like you said, the media plays such an important role. And then like a lot of climate resistant and climate-oriented solutions or activities have been carried out in the country, and a lot of good work has been done. But then, if the information is not reaching the people, we don't know. We, as a Gambian, as people, if we don't see it, we cannot feel that impact that it is having. And then how it is also communicated to the public. If it is communicated to be like a scam, that this is not real, it means the media is also playing a huge role in that. So like you said, the media holds such an important position in terms of climate change, and then bringing it to a level that is that will support human existence and continuity of life, which is a very important thing. And like you said, African Renaissance TV, we currently have a program that is known as the sustainability track. That was one of the biggest motivations behind that program. We tend to invite in specialists to talk on different angles, but this has been general on sustainability, but then we've not had a specific one on the climate change. But this advice would be taken on board, and then possibly you will be one of the first guests we will try to have on that. So that is an important one. Thank you so much. So I am now coming on to Mr. Suleiman Jammeh. In the Gambia, Mr. Jammeh, I would want to ask you two questions, and you would have to answer them at once. Yes, transportation. How important is it in our lives as a people? I know this is a huge topic you can talk about in 5 years, but we will try to summarize as much as possible. And then the second question would be, in the Gambia, in most part of Africa, for instance, issues in terms of media are reported mostly when there are issues, when there are problems, when problems occur. As of today, if you ask any Gambian what is happening in terms of our traffics, for instance, or in terms of our streets, it will be the illegal encroachment and process that has been going on. This is going on because it has been a problem. That is why now we are seeing this in the media. But then, how could the media have handled such a thing? What could we do different to see as a solution going forward?
Thank you very much, Mark. Question, actually. My name is Suleiman Jammeh. I work at the University of the Gambia. I'm a transport specialist, urban planning and transportation, actually. The first question is very interesting, the importance of transportation. The importance of transportation is undoubted, of course, because each and every one of us actually used one mode of transportation to get here. Even if you walk on foot, of course, we classify walking as a mode of transportation, foot mobile. In fact, in the history of transportation, is the first mode of mobility. And we use it daily. Whether you are a farmer, you want to go to the farm, you want to go to the shop, you want to go to the office. Immobility perpetuates poverty, as Professor Edwin says. If you are not mobile, you will be poor. That is a fact, because most of the time where you get your livelihood, your farm, your shop, you have to mobile, you have to locomote from one place to another. So if we take transportation out of our lives, obviously that is going to be poverty. every day we mobile, and if we are going home, obviously we have to mobile. So the importance of transportation, we can talk about that from today till morning. We can look at all the SDGs that we actually highlighted. Every one of the SDGs that has to be achieved, transportation is indeed sacrosanct in that. Energy, whatever that is, we've done these presentations around every SDG that is important to our lives. Transport is indeed sacrosanct because you have to move from one point to another. So if that is out of the equations, let's assume that there's no transportation here. Are we sleeping here? That's the first question. When we are coming here, people talk about their cars. People talk about how can I go home, actually. So transportation encompasses our lives. So when you look at the media's involvement in terms of transportation, yes, recently we have seen encroachments, actually. Yes, the road corridor has been encroached by people, women, selling around the road corridor. For us transportation professionals, we have a different perspective of that. The question is, are vehicles more important than human beings? Are vehicles more important than human beings? Are people, those that are behind the wheels, are they more important than the pedestrians? Are they more important than the woman that is actually selling to get a livelihood? That's a question. So we said, look, we have to rethink about these things. We have to demotorize. The concept is demotorization. The way vehicle has been proliferated in the country, it's not sustainable. The importation policies, we are not looking at it. Every Tom, Dick and Harry, every rickety of a car is actually coming into the government, which is a cause of concern. And that has to be actually out there for every policy maker, especially the Minister of Transport, the GRA, and then the ports, to know that vehicles that actually run for like 20, 30 years can't find ways in the Gambia here. That has to be looked at. If we do not look at that, we will have a lot of vehicles in the Gambia, and the end of the day, we'll be pushing people, we'll be demolishing people, we'll be encouraging into communities that are actually not sustainable. So media has a very role to actually play in this sensitization. People have to know that the way our communities are being motorized, that is not sustainable. In sustainable communities, for instance, you have trains, you have buses, you have mass transportation. And the other question is, should everybody have a vehicle, for instance? Should everybody have a car? The question is, we all don't need a car. We only need to access mobility. We only need to access a car when we need it. But if we all want to continue acquiring vehicles, we don't have enough road infrastructure for that. We don't have enough parking facilities for them. They will emit more carbon than we ever emitted before. Accidents will keep proliferating on our corridors because every single car on a road is an exposure to an pedestrian. We need mass mobility. When it comes to sustainability, that's what countries are doing. You need train facilities. That's what countries are doing. But the status quo, we can't keep on solving it, firefighting those things, because as we have more vehicles, you tend to realize that the place is small. The place is not actually small. It's because we have a lot of vehicles. In fact, there's a book called Fighting Traffic. It classifies vehicles as moving metals in our community. Our kids cannot play in our community anymore. Streets are taken by motorizations, and these are problems that we can't actually continue to have them within our society. So media, of course, can be a very instrumental tool that can be used to create awareness, to actually enlighten people about these constraints that we have in our society. Thank you very much.
He's sleeping. Maybe you should just turn back and say, my neighbor, wake up. The food is still here. No one is sleeping. Well, yes, so that is important, Mr. Jame. Transportation holds an important role in our lives. Like you said, none of us would have been here in the first place without transportation. And I like the fact that you said in terms of achieving any of the SDGs, any of the sustainable development goals, transportation rather is a key and important element in them. That is important. Yes, some people can be like a watch in terms of in the midst of people. He said I should summarize, and I will try to summarize as much as I possibly can. So we'll keep it short. But that is important. Like he said, we've had something from the Gambia Press Union in terms of journalism, in terms of climate change. We from Prof, and then transportation to Suleiman, and now my left. I'm starting with one of the most exciting things, and then one of my hidden talents personally that I have that I've not shown to many people here. Aside holding the mic right here, few people maybe amongst the audience can subscribe to this, that I'm a very good footballer, but in my mind. Yes, so when it comes to sports in general, we are not just going to limit it to football, but sports in general, in relation to media. What is it that has been lacking in the Gambia, and what can we do better?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Actually, if we come to sports in general, in terms of its relations to media, I think our sports, we have all witnessed to the current growth of our sports. But you realize that the sport is growing, and although we have sport journalists, but it's important also that we have specialization in those sport journalists as various subject on the sports, because sport is critical, and this is why if you look at our mindset, we normally see sport as a game or a profession for school dropouts. What creates that? Because it's the lack of communicating or creating awareness, which we need to go closer with the Sport Journalists Association. You realize that in the Gambia, we have a population of 60% are youthful, but did it actually translate when it comes to our policy-driven point? Most of the time, we bring sports as secondary in everything during the plan that we are doing, but we're forgetting that sport is something that could have addressed most of the things that we have given primary attention to. Sport could have addressed health. Sport could have addressed Prof's area of intervention, climate change, because you need active body to be participating in that. And if you have 60% of this population and you are not looking at their interest, where every Gambian, like you're saying, you are mentally ready for sport, but the environment is, and the conducive environment is not provided. I'll give you an example. If you look at Brazil, it's as equal as Gambia when it comes to economic realities. It's just like a third world country like the Gambia. But what are they doing differently? That is what is now contributing back to their GDP to uplift their economic status. That is, they have a lot of young Brazilians playing outside who are on professional areas, and now they are importing a lot of foreign currency and also building the capacity of those players and the family. If you take our neighbor, for example, in Senegal, Sadio Mane, for example, in Senegal, in Bambali, since the independence of Senegal, Bambali did not got a health boost. But how was this health boost provided? By Sadio Mane. How do they have a school in Bambali? By Sadio Mane. By its own image, the entire Bambali have a telecommunication facility. So, but unless we make the positioning of sports in our mindset, which the sport entity plus the Sport Journalists Association needs to come together and make people to see the relevance of sport. How can you reduce in terms of our health as related issues? Currently, we see what is happening. Young people into a lot of migration, illegal migration. Why is that happening? Because their mindset is made to believe that they can make it quicker there and it's faster for them there, when actually it's the reverse. Because recently, if you look at the performance, let's take the performance of the U20.
in the international body. It have create Gambia to be known worldwide. Anywhere you go now, you talk about Gambia, people know where Gambia is. And recently, just the past window period, where you have at least to move from the Gambia to outside, we have 68 young people who went out to sign professionals. But this information that needs to be disseminated to the general public, and now the source of that information will be formulated, and when they are formulated, what do they create? They will now create a public perception, and then it becomes a debate in our policy makers' offices or elsewhere. So these are areas that we really need to work with the sport journalism. I'll give you an example. GFF used to have a very bad corporate image, because what was happening, we were not communicating. We were only, concerned internally, working directly to our primary stakeholders. But when the attack became too much, we realized that we have to reevaluate ourselves and look at what's the challenge. The first thing we did was to create our own internal platform. That is where we started, and now we started going out to other media outlets, and people now understanding what is the role of the GFF, what is the role of the National Sports Council, what is the role of the ministry. Likewise, I wish all other sporting associations could emulate the same thing.
Well, yeah, thank you. Any element, if there is any element to reshape our thinking as a people, the media is a big partner in that. It's important to see how we think as a people, how we see sports, how we see transport, how we see climate change, how we see journalists, and then how we see journalism. So, but nothing of this can be achieved in terms of changing our mindset without sports. In terms of GFF, that is important, but media is an important part, and that is why the Renaissance Dinner, if you look at every brochure that you have right in front of you, at this corner of each of the brochures, you will see reshape the thinking, because we believe this is what we must do in terms of anything that we do need to do to attain progress. This mindset has to change, and then that is an important part. And then even on the time here, so I need to change my mindset on minimizing the rate at which I am speaking, and then to make sure this night is not prolonged than it should be. So now we are moving to the ultimate question, or in terms of the panelists, from the Director of the Health Services, right, the Ministry of Health. It is important, like the common saying has been tonight or this night, that problems are easily reported, problems are easily communicated to everyone. Everyone wants to be a journalist, even in our own houses. But I want to be specific on maternal health. We know health is so vast, we can talk about anything, but then I want to pick on maternal health as an example. It's that important. Maternal health is one of the parts that affects every member of the family. If a mother dies, a child dies, a father is sad, a family is sad, a society is affected. But what is the role of media in terms of reporting? Because when you ask me today, in terms of maternal health, the general perspective is that the Upper River region has been identified as a red zone, and I know this because I've seen this in a media platform. So how important would you rate, and then what role would you assign to the media in terms of health services, especially on maternal health in the Gambia?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, Your Excellency, and to everyone here. I'm Mustafa Bite. I'm the Director of Health Services. My background, actually, I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist. So this is a very important good area for me. And it's a priority for the energy. The mortality is devastating to the family, to the country, and to everyone. So, but no one should die giving birth, usually. And you can see that in Gambia, for example, the maternal mortality ratio is 289 per 100,000. In other developed countries, about 6. But if you look at our sub-region, like it's one of the best numbers, but it's unacceptable. We are saying that by 2030 it has to be 70. 70 is still unacceptable. But maybe it's not realistic to say 6 in 2030. So we have a lot of work to do to reduce the maternal mortality so that no woman dies giving birth. But the media has a big role, because who gives the information to the people? I hardly ever see very qualified, economically empowered person dying because of maternity. It doesn't exist. Most of the time it's because of people are not getting the information or the resources. So you hardly see a lawyer, doctor, because they don't have to wait for their husbands. If a doctor needs to go to labor, he just gets a vehicle and go. A lawyer does the same, but somebody has to wait for the husband, wait for this, wait for that, a lot of things, because they don't have the knowledge. So who gives them this? You have the experts, but there's a barrier, and that's where the media comes. So the media is very important, but we need a responsible media. And we know that you are going to do that, you've been doing that, because sometimes the message is distorted, using their own opinion. We have Your Excellency here during the COVID, on his own volition, started washing hands. That saved a lot of people. But you have media houses giving platform to people who are saying that this doesn't exist. And that had led to a lot of disaster to other households. So we need to be responsible, because you are a gap. You are bridging a gap between the technical people and the other people who need the information. And I don't want to belabor this point, but it's the media's role is very important in ensuring that the poor woman in my village in Charmin gets the message, gets the prevention, and doesn't reach a stage where he will have to die in labor. Thank you.
Health, and in terms of, especially when it comes to maternal health, is something that is a serious discussion. It's a serious business, and it is unfortunately everyone's business, whether we want to know this or not. But then we don't have to be technicians to be affected by maternal health and then health in general. And like you said, on African Renaissance TV, we have a specific program known as the maternal health. So it brings experts from the health sector. It brings women. It brings husbands, wives, children to have a conversation around this, because we believe there is an information gap, like you said, and then to close this gap we need to bring a platform, we need to create a platform that we can have a conversation of this magnitude. So thank you very much. So now we want to go to the last and then the final part. If as young as I am, when I was younger than this age, when I am eating a loaf of bread that is has any form of stew, I will always push the best and I'll push it to the last part, so that if I'm to give anyone, I give you the first part, and then the other part I will have to keep it for myself. So the conversation can also be that way. We are going to the last one, Mr. Aliou Fall. Unfortunately, I am not going to ask him a scientific question, even though he's a lab scientist. So my question would be, Mr. Aliou Fall, the Renaissance is Africa pitch competition. This is the project we are here for. I want you to talk on one thing that would be the last part for this conversation, and it would be, how do you envision a TV like African Renaissance in the next 10 years, for instance? What do we need to do? What steps do we need to take?
It has come to mean different from a lot of TVs, but do we need it? Yes, we need it. We need Africa Renaissance TV. In high school, I learned about the European Renaissance. Yes, Renaissance, rebirth. There was a civilization before, a Greek civilization, Roman civilization. All of a sudden, they fell into darkness and backward. No more books, no more everything. We know the history. Then at some point, something critical happened, and there was a Renaissance. There's no doubt Africa had a great past. There's no doubt Africa had a great past. So how do we make ourselves believe in the first place that we have a great past? Some of us don't believe we have a great past. They will tell you the pyramids in Egypt were built by people of other races. Some people, like say Antonio, have proven otherwise many times before. But we have to convince ourselves that we can do it. And not only that, it's not just about we can do it, but we start doing it. So all these panelists here, what they have said before, the issues of the importance of keeping the environment and all those things, because environment is resource. Sports are and all those things. So how do we do it? Do we need societal change? Yes, we need societal change. Can we do it through the media? Yes, we can do it through the media. Can ARTV do it? Yes, I think we can do it. We started doing it by showing what businesses obtain in Africa. So ARTV is not a Gambian mindset TV. It's an African TV. So the richest African made his wealth in Africa. So that's a success story that we need to tell. We don't need people to tell our stories in their own negative ways. We need to tell our own positive stories. So I think this is what should guide Africa Renaissance TV. And I think this is what has guided it from inception. And I think come the next 10 years, you will be like the equivalent of the CNNs and Al Jazeera's, but for Africa. I think this should be the drive. Yes, thank you very much.
Well, maybe DJ, the angle is back again. I think it's yes. So he has turned off something. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Like I said, if you can remember my loaf of bread, it is finally tasting like it used to taste. When we end it, we should end it with that taste. And like he said, the reason why I asked this question as the last question, because from the vision I can see, from what he said, the Africa that we can go back to in terms of progress, in terms of positivity, in terms of success, the issue of climate change wasn't a challenge in that Africa. The issue of transportation wasn't a challenge in that Africa. Information sharing has been done by experts in that time. We have African culture in terms of sports. We don't necessarily have to be football. There was African sports that we had back then. Our people lived in a healthy society. So in summary, that Africa is what we need to have now. And then to have that back, we don't need to go back to that age when my grandfather would always wrestles as a sport. We can still play football, but then can we do it in this African way? Can we excel here? Can we have our minds believe that we can do it? Can we talk about our own stories? Can we fix our own problems? Can we look inward and say, yes, we have problems, but we will fix it because we can fix it, and then this is something we need to do. And if you listen to the letter to the next generation as recited by poetess Dija, the next generation is there to judge us. We, in my own generation here, I am the youngest here, yes? Yes, I am the youngest. I don't need to ask that question. I mean, in the panel here. Yes, I am the youngest. So when you ask me with any of my age mates, we are judging people that have passed us, people that have left this generation for us. We are judging them currently. Most of our problems, we are relating it to them. Yeah. And I'm saying this is going to be true for the next generations to come if we, as gathered here, as a country, as a continent, don't take the right steps. So the Renaissance, if it is as this has been started, like he said, when you remember Sheikh Anta Diop, could be one of greatest grandfathers, not in fact a great grandfather. The question is still here. We still not have the African Renaissance. I mean, truly, across Africa. So if we still live our lives without achieving it, it means the question will have to come up again. And I don't think we want our next generations to ask of us what we are asking of our great grandfathers today. So like I said, the aim of this panel discussion is to serve as a conversation starter. We knew we couldn't exhaust every topic here. Journalism could be talked about in 100 years, it couldn't exhaust. Climate change can be talked about in 1,000 times. Transportation is something that Suleiman would tell you 3 hours cannot give you the first episode. And when it comes to sports, we are going to talk about sports tomorrow, to the next day, next year. From the AFCON, we are thinking of the World Cup. From the World Cup, we are thinking of something bigger. And health is an important part. We are all here to eat and taste good dining because we have we are healthy. We can in fact taste something. There are people that cannot in fact taste what they eat. So I think that is an important part that none of us can neglect in terms of health. But like he said, we can achieve all this in one step. Renaissance is Africa, and that is why we have the African Renaissance TV, and then this project, which is known as the Renaissance is Africa pitch competition, is everyone's pitch competition. This is in everyone's region, is in everyone's domain. There are the topics, the thematics cuts across, and then we are all a part of it. And with the energy that the food has in us, and I know the host, the MC is already waiting, but I would want us to use the same energy to give a round of applause to all of the panelists here as we all go back to our various seats. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.